Hey, welcome back. We are in Philippians chapter 1. Yesterday we did verse 9, and Paul told us what he wanted us to do, which was love more deeply. Today we're going to dive into the why, and this is in verse 10. So we are in Philippians chapter 1, verse 10. So he says in verse 9, hey, I want you to love more in knowledge and depth of insight. Then he says, so that. We always got to pay attention when there's a so that you may be able to discern what is best and may be pure and blameless for the day of Christ. So when we have a so that, like I said, we've got to wake up, we got to pay attention. So he's telling us why we need to love and kind of know why we're loving and have that depth of love. It is that we may be able to discern, so we can kind of tell, through the leading of the Holy Spirit, he just helps us discern and understand things better. What is best? So we have to know what is the best way to live, what is the best way to love, what is the best way to follow Christ and ultimately be like Jesus, okay? And may be pure and blameless for the day of Christ. So he's telling us that we need to love more deeply and know why we're loving and have that kind of grasp on that. That way we can understand what the Holy Spirit's leading us to do. That way we can do what is best, pure, and blameless. He is giving us a blueprint of Jesus. Jesus' love for us was so deep. He knew why he loved us, and his insights were infinite, way more than we could ever have because he's God. But it was so deep, and he knew exactly why. And Paul's like, we need to do that same thing. We need to have that depth of love, because when we do that, we can understand from the Holy Spirit who lives inside of us why we're loving, who we need to love, what we need to do to imitate Christ to the best of our ability. And we do that way we can be the best, or we can do what is best and may be pure and blameless for the day of Christ. So when Christ comes back, every Christian, we have a responsibility here on earth, and it is to be like Jesus, to love like him. And if we do those things, we can be found pure and blameless when Christ returns. He's prepping us for when we either go to heaven or when Christ comes back. Either way, we're going to face that judgment seat, and God's going to ask us, okay, I gave you all these things to do. What'd you do with it? He just wants to know, what'd you do with it? And we can be we loved deeply. We know why we loved, and we imitated Christ to the best of our ability. So Paul is helping us understand exactly why we need to have that deep-seated love for others, just like Christ had for us. Now, tomorrow we're going to dive into how, because Paul's not just going to leave us hanging and hey, this is what you got to do and this is why. He's going to help us know how. So come back tomorrow and we will find out how we can actually walk this out and do this in everyday life.